perfect. Just start. Hey, what are you all up to? Let's see.
like
How about this? This week, Friday, is when you and I saw each other 4 years ago.
Oh, really?
We met at the airport and we drove to Mount Shasta. Remember, it was for my 44th birthday.
All right.
Oh my goodness. And isn't it amazing? So
Far out.
yeah, I know, you forgot.
4 years ago.
4 years ago. So we met
2016.
On her 44th.
on my 44th. So remember
That's
I told
right.
you,
And I'm 44.
he's 40. He
Are you
turned
really?
44 this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. I told him, I told Michael, I said, Michael, as soon as you enter 44, your whole world is going to shift. Like, finally, you enter the 44 club. Like, this is
Age, abundance, prosperity.
Yeah, exactly.
Right during the freaking,
It's amazing.
right during this epidemic. Right?
So 4 years ago, Michael, this week, I was on the plane. But he's recording.
No, I'm recording now. Yeah, I pressed it a minute ago. So let's just keep going.
Yeah.
This is good.
So 4 years. So I remember, Adrian. I never forget. It was January where I received the guidance from the higher team. They said you have to be in Manchester for your 44th birthday. So they wanted to bring information. And I don't remember how the details were that we decided to be in Mount Shasta together, like the whole journey. And so this Friday actually would be Saturday because Sunday is my birthday. So Saturday we met at the airport in San Francisco.
San Francisco, yeah.
And then we went to the Whole Foods. We picked up the stuff we needed and we drove to Shasta. And I stayed with David at Magic Mountain. Adrian stayed at I don't remember the name of the place he stayed, but it was.
Yeah, I can't remember.
But I remember, I remember I was very upfront with it. I was like, Adrian, I have to be in the room by myself. You cannot stay with me here. Because I needed to be in the room, in that Magic Mountain room, just so I can enter 44 with that. And everything was around Saint Germain and the information that was shared. And one of them was, you will, like, remember I shared this with you, your next 44 years is going to be completely different. Like you've served the hardship. It's all finally behind you. Came and you delivered everything that was asked of you. Your next 44 years is going to be magical. And the other part of it was that it will be the 44 years is the year that I will be with my beloved, because you've been a witness. Well, honey, what's going on? You have this calling to be with your beloved. It hasn't happened yet. And, we went through that. And it was interesting because after that, we were in Shasta for a few days, and Adrian got to experience what snow was for the first time. He had never experienced snow.
That was your first time seeing snow?
First time to see snow, yeah.
Wow.
Well, it was more ice than anything, but it was still like a brilliant experience to see it and be a part of it, yeah.
There's no snow in Australia, is there?
Not where I am. In the eastern states, in Victoria, Thredbo, for example, we do have snowfields, but definitely not where I live.
Congratulations, that's beautiful.
It was great.
Magic.
Great.
And then we did some planetary work together on somewhere on the side on the path. I can't remember where it was, but somewhere there. Then we both, Adrian from there went to another state, and I went back to LA. Then we connected, remember, in Los Angeles, where Jocelyn came when she had her baby.
Right. Yeah.
Joy.
Yeah.
Just so much took place. And then Adrian met back with me in August in Washington, D.C. Remember, we were here for a week, and he got to meet Gia and Mariam and Sanhia and everybody during that week. That we were staying at my mom's house. And remember, it was Michael, it was so powerful because the relationship, as you know, like Adrian and I have so close. Like, I consider Adrian like one of my BBFFFFFs, lifetimes. And the bond we have is just so powerful. Like the love we have, the respect we have for each other. And And that week was very powerful when Adrian came, because Adrian was forever, I've always shared this with you. You have been a huge gift for me. Yeah. That gift, when you came to DC, up until that point, Kiana had never seen another guy. And Adrian came, and we went to Carl's house. Remember, we all together, and I wanted that. I wanted my kids to see an example of what it's like when I'm finally with my beloved, where, Carl would get a chance to be a very good relationship. The kids did that. And you gave me the feeling what it was like, that vision I had, where you implemented the feeling until Michael came. And forever, I'm grateful to you.
Well, thank you, honey. Yeah, that means a lot. Yeah, it was a special time, wasn't it? It really was.
Asking, why aren't you with Adrian? I was like, because he eats alligators. I can't. My sons love you. I was like, I can't. He eats alligators. I can't with somebody who's got alligators.
Wow, you eat alligators. I wish I was not a vegetarian. I think I would have a little go back to my carnivorous levels.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know what you're missing out on, Michael. Yeah.
But our lives from that went to and we did a powerful planetary work. I remember, Adrian, we went to the river, the river I go to, and Adrian's like, man, honey, it's heavy here. And we did that podcast where you were telling your friends back in Australia, like, whoa, Washington DC is no joke. This shit is heavy here. Yeah. Until I took you to Monument, then we did a planetary walk, and Adrian was like, "Oh, dizzy and head pressure."
Welcome to the club. And it's beautiful.
Yeah.
But then you came into the picture, and Leah came into Adrian's picture.
It was about the same time, wasn't it?
It was about the same time.
Yeah. And how beautiful is it? 2024.
No.
Here we are on the 4-year anniversary.
Yeah.
Here we are on 4/8.
Yeah.
Triple fours.
Totally.
That it's like that completion.
It's amazing.
Of that mirror of all these beautiful 4s coming through, and 8s, and Adrian, and all this wonderful energy that we get to share on this call.
It's amazing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I have to say too, I mean, when I've found. Well, obviously we discover a lot of the things about each other on, with our friends on social media these days. But when yourself and Michael got together, like I was so, like, in my heart, I was just so stoked. Like, there was something about seeing you two together. I was like, this is it. Like, this is it. And I was just so happy. And we haven't had a chance, I don't feel like, I guess, in the last 4 years to connect as often as we would like. But just to see how you're both moving through the world and the things that you're doing, it's very inspiring and it's very loving. So yeah, it's been an amazing thing to witness. I feel like, I guess, that trip and that time that you and I had that together, honey, in America. I mean, for people who watch this podcast know that, we've had many experiences before that, both in Australia and in the UK as well. But I think that was a real, like, to use an engineering term, a real fulcrum point, certainly in my life. And yeah, something I hold very dear in my heart that time. For sure. Yeah. For
sure. And I feel the other part of it that's very important is you and I have been very real with each other all along, just very straightforward, real, and I kept saying to it, I was like, they have shown me who I have to be with. I have to fulfill this mission. I cannot, it has to match the frequency. Him and I have had so many discussions. It's like, well, you kind of don't you feel you're like making it up? You busted the boss I don't have, I was like, Adrian, like, I know what vision has been given to me. Like, and I can't go against. It has to be this matched frequency so that we can fulfill this. And so it's incredible. But Michael and I came together. I mean, we just took off. Like, as soon as we took off, because it is not a relationship. It is not just to be with somebody. It is a divine mission with a divine purpose, on a scale of on a planetary level. So everything for us is very focused on the personal ascension as well as the planetary ascension, and this frequency we share together, and we don't use any terms of twin flames or anything like, because at this point it doesn't even resonate.
Yeah.
We are a soul embodiment in that is I feel the one thing that resonates with both of us, we are part of the 144,000 to deliver the call. That's all. It's pretty straightforward, and that's why other ones in Michael's life couldn't, align, and the ones in my life that came was not the right alignment, just so that we can deliver the way that we've been of service to, and everything is under the umbrella of pure service.
Yeah.
So it's been incredible.
Yeah, it's been amazing to see how quickly. Go ahead. What were you going to say, Andrew?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I was going to ask you, Michael. I mean, I don't think I've really had a chance to speak to you about this, but I've been very interested in, I know a little bit about what you were doing before your time in DC, and I've got some friends that knew you in Bali and things like that. But I understand you spent some time in Mexico as well. And like, what was that? What was that? I mean, the word that comes to mind is transition. When you met Honi, and then you've decided to. I mean, were you from Washington, Virginia area originally?
Well, that's the beautiful energy of it is I grew up an hour north of where Honi lived here, and I feel like I were
Baltimore.
In Baltimore.
Oh,
West
okay.
Baltimore, so just like a little north. So I feel like we've been two stars kind of moving in different directions, because I went from the East Coast to the West Coast in San Diego, as Honi was in LA at one point. I received my master's, and then on a whim went down to Mexico. And as Honi was traveling around the world, I was in Mexico, which gave me the opportunity to travel when I wasn't in high season. And it was beautiful because, like Honi said, I met different people, but I really didn't find that alignment. And I felt right before Honi, there was just this deep journey of really looking within myself, of self-love, self-nourishment, and seeing that was so important to really bring that into its highest evolution before meeting my beloved. And somewhere in my heart, I kept feeling like, alrighty, things are going to happen a little later. And I feel like when I hit my 40s, there's going to be some very powerful energies that are going to find my beloved one. And as I was in Mexico in my 10th year, I could feel the energy shifting there, and just my soul starting to feel itchy, like the next step is coming along. And when I went to Bali those previous 2 years for 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, it was this awakening that into my shamanic training, and just really into a higher feeling that it's coming. So be prepared. And it was amazing before I met Honi how, I did go to intuitive healer. Long story short, there were all these pieces that were placed before me of this powerful galactic shaman that was coming before my path. And for me to come back, work with my father in his transition, and then out of like the blooming, I don't know if you ever got a chance to meet Safi, but to meet a friend of her friend, and then be invited to one of her galactic shamanic sound vibration classes, and like literally be so intrigued beyond love, beyond friendship. It was like this intriguement of like, I know this person. I have to like really be with her right now. It was beyond. It was just this feeling of,
he was activated.
I was so activated, and it was funny because most people are like, well, look at this beautiful person. And if you would have really saw the first actual incident when I first met her, she was like, in her car, and I walked behind her, and she was like,
I had a fight with Carl that morning. I was so far, like I mean, and I had divorced the idea of men. I
married herself. She was in her own beloved. So when I walked by her, she was kind of.
I was there for a few months. I was
like,
just
hi, and I was like, hey, and I was like, okay, I'm coming. I don't know if this is the practitioner, but I'm here for the experience, because to find a shamanic event in Baltimore, I mean, in Maryland, one of the most conservative places, I was overjoyed because I just got back from Bali, and as you know, Bali and just that energy. So when we met and we started talking, and all these overlines of synchronicities happened, it was phenomenal, Adrian, not only to meet her, but to really let everything go and just jump and dive into it to the point that 3 weeks on the road.
Yeah, within 2 weeks, we traveled 3 different countries and just started
Oh, really?
like right away
Yeah.
prior to we went to Belize,
Went to
Guatemala, and
Mexico.
Oh, okay.
One pyramid to another, activations, grid work, clearing land energy. I mean, like planetary
It was
work,
like the
one
American
after
Race
another.
with Goonies and Neverending Story all combined, because it was, honey,
It
nothing
was
is
like
ever normal. So when all the
Sure.
channels through and we were going from one place to another, and I know you can resonate with this, it was like almost a movie, to the point that she's like, okay, are you gonna close your practice? Are you gonna, because there was this shift going on in Mexico with my visa, which the universe properly, divinely planned. And before I knew it,
he was there for 10 years.
10
He had
years.
his
Oh,
clinic.
okay. Right.
I had an acupuncture massage center. I was living the motorcycle diaries. I think I was waiting my time for honey because I was surfing. Had my outdoor office, living on my
Adrian
farm. I was.
Oh,
He was a surf boy.
living the life.
I'm a little kind of jaded now after 3 years, because I'm like, wow, what happened to helmet, driving to my office, dry erase board with marker, and just living the lime life of like, this is so easy. I love this single life, but never feeling fully complete, never feeling like there was something empty inside. So to let all that go, as Honey did with her center, and many, as you know, many levels in her life, it was such a journey to jump off.
I had a lot of compassion. I knew what it was like to let go of all of it and close shut everything out and then serve, like just get on the. It's like, I mean, when people feel like, oh, they need support, how to get through it. I mean, it's very daunting when you receive that calling and you just have to let it all go, and not sell it, nothing, let it all go completely and get on the road to serve something beyond you, but you can't even put it into words.
And imagine, Adrian, this town that I was the only acupuncturist. Everyone was like, here's the town healer. Everything was at its pinnacle of just business going straight up, to everything down, to give everything away, to drive down with a truck, 4 surfboards, and all my stuff, and walk away with 2 suitcases to meet Honey in LA during the coldest, rainiest time LA in her brother's house, then to really do the real work, because the first 3 weeks were like the magic mushroom in the heavens, and then once we met, that's when all the shit came out.
All
my stuff came out, was like the fear, the anxiety. It was almost like the first 2.5 years of our divine union. It was like this tweaking of our frequencies, because there was so much of energies not only between us, but with my father transitioning.
His father was he wasn't sick. He had stroke and a heart attack, so he was slowly
declining, and someone that had a stroke, I had to be there, and he was like one of the deepest, loves with a father, and he was one of the original way showers, and just had a lot of great spirituality that I grew up with him. So when that was declining, it took a lot of energy out of me, as well with Honey. I know with her husband and just that relationship and everything, her ex-husband, there were frequencies that were aligning with us. So for us to come together, it was like the universe provided us probably some of the most challenging levels, to the point, Adrian, you'd appreciate this. I was so into my surfing, Mexico beach life, and always wanted to get to Australia. When we found this place, I got cold feet to sign the lease, because Honey kept saying, well, we're going to live by a beach. We're going to live here. That I didn't even want to be in D.C. The art by D.C., because I was away from the East Coast for 17 years, 7 in San Diego in California, 10 in Mexico. And those 17 years I lived within a mile of the beach.
Right, okay.
And this feeling here, like, it's like, like, oh my gosh. And and I moved from LA. So I moved back from LA. So that summer, that August, before I met you back in DC, I had received the calling. I had to return back because of Nevon. So I was coming. I was in my 6 weeks Europe tour, and then came back to be able to then get an apartment to have Nevon live with me. So, and just before all of that happened, it just so happened Michael and I met, Like so there's just a whole lot of stuff
coming, and we both, I feel like we're at the perfect time of supporting each other through her transition with her ex-husband, my transition of my father, her here for her children, me for my mother, since my brother moved out. And it was a perfect level, even though we moved into what I would say some of the densest areas and times in DC, which we know we're here to hold the light. and to be here to shine that in the highest frequency.
Yeah, of course, because that was the US elections were playing out at that time, weren't they? I remember the Democratic primaries were on, I think, when I was there. I remember the whole, and just the energy in DC at that time was pretty full on. I just come from Guatemala. I'd been there for a few weeks. So I remember I was feeling pretty relaxed. And then walking into DC was a bit of a...
Relaxed. Listen.
Yeah.
You were like, Mike, you came from Portal of Guatemala. You were just so ease, blissed out, like in a whole different world. And you entered DC. You're like,
was.
What the hell is this here?
And honey, for those that are not Guatemala, I spent 4 months in Guatemala, especially a lot of Atitlan. To go from Guatemala to DC is like going from like the peace of a peace Mayan country, and then you go into DC, it's like you might as well just throw a hammer over your head, because that is like the most polarity extreme.
Yeah,
it is. I was in Lake Atitlan as well. Yeah, that's where I was. But perfect too, right? As well. Like, I guess it's that it gives you the breadth of reality is when we can. I mean, having said that, it's not like, I was in Southern Sudan or anything like that. Like, that's a whole different kettle of fish. Like, so there's blessings in that, but like it's an understanding too of like the sort of dichotomies in life and the understandings of just on what this earth has to offer and what us as a society and a civilization has to offer. And so for you two to meet at that time, especially during that period where the US elections are on, and something that was quite paradigm shifting with having Donald Trump come in.
Yeah, we actually met right after Donald Trump got elected.
That whole thing, because I was here the night before. That night before the election, I was doing the event with the Galactic Shamanic Sound Medicine with Alan in Pentagon City, Crystal City, so that we can just anchor some light, like stuff to happen. So it was extremely intense time.
It's another 4 years because
it is 4 years.
When you look at 2012, then 2016,
and then
2020, it's amazing when you look at the four and the completion and it's, where we are at in each of our lives. It's very powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good subject to bring up, the 2012 thing. Jerry and I spoke a little bit about it in the interview that we did, but like really reflecting on it, and especially as the years go by, like how much of a turning point 2012 was. I mean, for you both, like where were you both in your lives in 2012, and how can you sort of triangulate it to where you are now? Like, how you feel about it now?
So just to leave off where I went, I took a backpack and was planning on 2012, the summer, of just going to Central America and surf the coastline all the way to South America. But that never happened, because once I made it to Lago Atitlan, I stopped for 4 months to study with a beautiful shaman, spend a month in San Marcos at the Pyramid Temple. I don't know if you ever got a chance to see it in San Marcos.
That's where I stayed in San Marcos. Yeah, I stayed in San Marcos. Yeah.
So where they had that huge pyramid where you could stay there for a month, I did the Los Pyramides course, and I felt that was part of my shamanic awakening in 2012. Okay. That allowed me to really dive deep into the essence of my spiritual nature and follow that in South America, into Bolivia, Colombia, Peru, to awaken I really felt that awoken the shaman within me to navigate where I was going to go, and to spend 4 months in Lago Atitlan as you were there. It was such a powerful, just like there's no other country I can compare Guatemala to other than Tibet. There's a peace and love in Guatemala that is so deep in the Mayan country. So to be there and really connect with the land and the people, and then to allow that to follow the path into Peru and to Machu Picchu and to the along the Colombian coastline into the Colgis that Dranbalo spoke about. I felt like it was that awakening that really prepared me for what I feel 2016. It was this complete evolution, and obviously living in Mexico in the Mayan area, there was always this is 2012, the apocalypse, the Armageddon. So that was always in my head, but I never thought I would take 6 months, Adrian. I was planning to take a month. 6 months, I just kept traveling and followed my spirit to allow the awakening that was within me that has allowed me to be where I am right now.
Beautiful. Yeah. What about yourself, honey? I don't think we've ever spoken about. What were you doing in 2012, and what did you notice about that sort of that year and in
Well,
your life?
that was the most monumental year of my life because 2012, my life began is when I died on January 8, 2012. So that's experienced everything. And then
That's right.
then I mean it was a takeoff. I mean, like massive takeoff. And it was my 40th. I happened to enter my 40th birthday 8 years ago, the morning of my 40th birthday. I woke up and said, today's the day I start the separation with Carl. So that was
Okay.
yeah. And I had just come back from Dolores Cannon training with QHHT. So it was the month before that. And I also, that was the same weekend on my birthday that I went to Reverend Hoyt's Circle.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, Reverend Hoyt's Circle. So some information was, and that's when the first time El Moria came in, and El Moria had brought the message that confirmed, which Reverend Hoyt didn't know anything about. That was confirmed with quite a bit of stuff between El Moria and Isis. And Mary Magdalene had come in, the information that I had seen when I was in spirit side when I had died. So from the morning of my birthday, I knew, okay, I start the separation. And that's when it began going through changing of the house. And it was that fall that I began my first planetary grid work, clearing, activation, all of that. And it started with Sedona. And I add in between it, I was making the drum. That was part of it. That was the ceremonial drum. And so on to December of 2012. So 12, 12, 12, I had a ginormous event at the house that I was in. And so many people came. And 12, 21, 12, Mariam from, the yoga studio, she had it. So we both pulled it together, and it was very peaceful between Cara and I going through our separation, figuring everything out. And I had to, because the Arcturians had brought the insight, I got to get on the road at 40 assignments, 40 planetary work, 40 places. And these things have to be activated and brought for these frequencies, which you've been part of a major one in Australia. And you know how, like, it can't put any kind of word around it other than what happens when it's done, because I'm just an instrument in that to connect these Christ conscious grids with each other that are part of the cities of light. The foundation had to be laid before this high vibration consciousness can become part of the collective conscious, and for the cities of light to become. So that's what was my take off from that 2012. And it took me, I've been on the road ever since then, just of complete service, gave everything, and very, 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 very difficult being separated from my children, finding the strength to do it, going to places I never knew how I'm going to do it. What am I supposed to, how do I explain it? What am I exactly answering to? What are these codes? What are these things that I'm seeing? How do I decipher this geometric golden things come in that I have to voice them out, sound it out? How do it was complete insanity that I couldn't even explain it, but I knew I had to do. And we happened to meet because right about the same time, I happened to be sent to Amin. Arcturian sent me to study with this oracle to bring the ancient sacred breath of the whales where we cross our path with. Remember that breath of the ancient ones, it's just been like just a takeoff and never stopping. Just integrating and serving it.
Yeah.
So
I feel a powerful year that activated so many of us in one way or the other, like awokenness. That for me, it felt like that was the year that so much happened in a short period of time, and because of that happened, it was like, wow, the ones that had been called on this mission to really come forth that year, speaking to so many people, it seemed that there was just incredible activations, incredible energies that came through and really brought us to frequencies and vibrations we could have never even dreamed of.
I feel I really like what you say that, but I feel on the individual level was the collective individual ascension awakening, and it did take a good 7-year journey, 7 to 8 year journey for the individuals to go through their multi layers of what they needed to dismantle to anchor this ascension descension so that they can be fully aligned. And we entered 2020, this divine gateway that we entered into, to then now as a full collective conscious to then go through it. Because those of us that started 2012 with that level of awakening, like really being like I feel me like a different being that is here to take on the higher role, and then now we've been here. Now we're just the stewards to just hold, just like I don't know if you saw my post yesterday.
I did see it. Yeah, it was brilliant.
But that's exactly what it is. Now you're kind of like in the outer ring, just hold the light as these poor new ones are about to go through it. And we know how rough that was. And I always say it's the natural ayahuasca. I mean, life is putting you through it. Like you're going to be purging when you face the mess and the density and the shadow and dark that's right under your nose. Like it's right here. You just have to now purge it out to be able to stand up for it and say no more,
Yeah, it is very much the shadow work, isn't it? I think in that post you hit the nail on the head. I feel like perhaps a few years ago and before that, a lot of people thought that getting into some sort of understanding of living a spiritual path meant like light and rainbows and fluffy white clouds and your life is going to be sweet if you just start meditating and doing that sort of thing. But in fact, it's the opposite that happens, and it needs to happen that way. That that real inner work where a lot of things come up, and it can be yucky and it can be mucky and it can be all these different things that make it quite difficult to even just get up out of bed sometimes. And but it's also beautiful as well. And I feel like perhaps what's happened in these last 8 years is that where people would have given up in the past, that there's a lot more people sort of just keeping with it now. There's a lot more of a supportive framework where people can talk about the things that they're going through and talking about a lot of their shadow work that is coming up. It's not taboo to talk about it anymore like it used to be. So I think that's one of the more brilliant changes that we've seen in society over the last 8 years, especially. But yeah, I thought that post, Honi, was really well put yesterday, and and speaking to that about the importance of sort of going through those dark aspects of ourselves while also honoring the light as well.
Well, like I really spoke to that for me when my reawakening. Keon and I had this conversation a few days ago when he was here. My reawakening was really with his birth. And then it kicked me to another gear in 2012 and I died. Right. Because through his birth and how sick that week was when he came in, and like everything that I had to face between the massive amount of doctors in the room and the tests and MRI, CAT scan, and the horrible things that was being said to Cara and I with our little tiny 1-week-old child. And I mean, that was the ultimate dark in my life, I would have to say. Like, here's a brand new mother, and Leah would really capture that. Carl was just frozen. He didn't know what to do, and we had this very rare condition where it went against everything inside of me, and I wanted to fight everybody. So that's when my fight against the medical system began, because I couldn't be pushed into what they wanted they were pushing me into whether to do surgery on him, to do all these things, because there were a group of many different doctors, everybody saying different things, like whether there's tumor in his head, they have the surgery, they got to do this, he'll die in a month, or I mean, it was awful, Adrian. But what that did, it was so bad, Adrian, I screamed my lungs at these doctors, and I took my child. I said, none of you are going to touch my child. And I had to stand up. That was a huge part of me standing up. And I took all that energy and I turned. That's when I turned, because I shut the door to God and divine, anything. It was so shut, so tight, since my dad had died, like no relation. And that's when I turned. I said, you did this, and I know you have a purpose. You need to show it to me. And I demanded answers. And that's when I opened the door. But that's when my true ayahuasca journey began, natural, because that's when I learned about the dirt in deep state, the government, what it does to its people, what it puts in the chemicals, how it affects the body, how it passes through a mother, does to the child, what it does with the vaccines. Then the Pandora box open, then it ties into the politicians, then the pedophilia, all of that, darling, open up. So that was me 20 years ago, going through it, to having to stand up to vaccines, to all of this. Like, and I felt so lonely, Adrian. But the anger was so much of what had happened to Kian. It gave me enough strength to open an entire center. I knew, that in 2006, I opened the first holistic healing eco-conscious center in the entire US. Just as a vehicle education, I couldn't go on a full head-on collision to tell what the U.S. government does to its people, and how it's tied to politicians, how it's tied to celebrities, what it does. But I could talk about what the crap you put on your skin, or your shampoos, conditions, what it does to your body. That's the limit that I could bring it through. And then to take him in a spiritual world, then that's when I created my line, all of this. So it's been a dedicated work of so many years to then be here. So I am compassionate to these people that are just coming around, learning the deepest of the ugliest dirt that they could have never even imagined. They're just waking up, and they're going to be vomiting, because it's been right on their nose the whole time. But
hidden in plain sight, as they say.
Yeah, and as a society, we've turned our head. I had a conversation with my mother. Mom was saying, honey, don't talk about so much pedophilia. Don't talk about, Ted doesn't like it. I said, Mom, how long do we not want to talk about it? How long do we want our head? I was like, I'm somebody who was sexually abused as a child. I was like, you turn your head. Family turned their head. I was like, I will not turn my head. No. This is the time we speak, and this is the time we speak with authority, our own divine authority, what we're no longer willing to tolerate ever again, because society has turned their head.
Well, that's a very good point. Is there our inability, or our it is an inability to talk about, discuss these various things, especially when it comes to like those really dense subjects of pedophilia and the whole. And it's not like what we're starting to become aware of. We're starting to become aware of how our media systems work, our financial systems work, but also how a lot of the games that are being played using children as bait, or whatever, like just it. And we're starting to understand that this is going on, but a lot of people aren't wanting to discuss these different subjects still, and perhaps again don't have the ability to. It's something that I've certainly, since Layla was born, it's something that's really become something that I find quite emotional about, because that could be my daughter, and it is a lot of people's daughters, and it's a lot of people's sons, and a lot of the machinations of the power in this world is run by using the life force energy of these young children. I mean, it's also used in the life force energy of us as adults in different ways, usually through economic means, economic slavery and things like that. At what point, you're right, honey, do we start talking about this and getting this into the public discourse? I admit myself, like, I've been doing quite a lot of, especially since Layla's been born. I've never had any interest in this before Layla was born.
Yeah.
But when she was born, I was like, I've got to understand this. I've got to understand what kind of world is out there for her, so I can help prepare her at least for that,
right.
and help not to necessarily protect her from it, because I know I can't always protect 100%, but at least understand and give her the tools to be able to do something with it. But at what point, but even given that, I still find it, I would love to talk about it more. I would love to talk about, more about, for example, the Jeffrey Epstein case. This is just one example of it. But even me, who's still quite open in my understandings of the world and the way I see the world, when it comes to those really dark, dense subjects, I do find it hard to talk about in the public realm. And I think a lot of that is probably just fear of what people will think of me and things like that. But it's something that we need to start speaking up about, all these different acts that are perpetuated against us.
Adrian, thank you so much, because you and my brother had your daughters about the same time.
That's right.
And this is something that I've talked to my brother for a long time. And even I brought this to my mother. This is very personal to me because of my own childhood experience. Now, I wasn't a sex slave or anything like that, but I have had the experience. And so one of the things I told my mother, I was like, Mom, slavery was legal, didn't make it right. Holocaust was legal, didn't make it right. Pedophilia is freaking legal in Iran. I was I was like, when will they start to talk about this? I was like, how much in the families? A lot of the sexual abuse is always in the families first. When will you talk about it? So, I had sons, Adrian. But very early on, when my children would take baths, Keon was 3, I would give him the sponge and I would communicate, this body is yours. Nobody touches it. Continuously communicate, especially when they would go out. I would ask them to put the light around them. What did that mean? The protection of the divines, that not from a place of fear, but that you don't attract that vibration to. And I opened up to my children early on, because it was so shame and embarrassment for me to talk in my family. I wasn't allowed to speak of it in my family, because it was, oh my God, you're going to shame and embarrass everybody. But that's a huge part of me opening up to communicate about it. So my children are super aware, where Carl wasn't even aware. I'm like, you need to be aware of this. So your radar is on. Your radar is on. You can see right through it. My brother's radar is on. And I always tell him, I said, listen, just because the uncles would do this, whatever on your butt and whatever, it was okay. It was never okay. Just because it's been passed on from family, at what point are we willing to stand up? Stand up when we know what is wrong is wrong. I don't care. Somebody comes tell me, well, pedophilia is not wrong. You're not going to win that argument with me. To touch a sacred child with sexual energy at that young age, I'm pretty black and white in that age. Yeah. I will stand up. I will voice it. And I feel that's the part. Are we willing to stand up for these sacred children? The age your child has come, she's coming into the diamond frequency. We're the stewards to protect these children. Protect them, but from what? Because they're coming with the most supreme frequency. And it's not to be diluted, because they have much, much higher work part of the new earth. And so as long as we're still suppressing this because we're afraid what people are going to think of us, we are part of keeping this frequency going on earth. And I refuse to be a part of that. That's why I'm very vocal on my pages, and I don't hold back, Adrian, because I know who I'm answering to. And I'm somebody who knows what that frequency coming into this incarnation, first thing being as under 1-year-old being sexually molested. Not even 1-year-old. My energy. So I know, and then I had to go through the journey of forgiveness and that. So because it wasn't our job is to protect our children when they're young. Simple.
And that's so powerful. It's so powerful, honey, because Adrian, what you spoke about and what's coming up now, I really feel the 144,000, those that are awakened, we're going to be in the front line to be educating, to be expressing, and most important, to be revealing all of this that has not been brought forward. And so, as dark and ugly and as bad as it is, we really have to speak the highest truth of it, to stand in our leadership of it, because there's going to be so many people that are going to be bewildered and just confused, and many, which we see in our own friendships, in denial of it. Yeah. And as hard as it is to bring it out, because it's almost like, wow, if I express this, are people going to look at me different? Are they going to judge me? Because we see in our own communities in the split in light workers of, is this a conspiracy theory? Is this real? Is this real spirituality? Because in real spirituality, we have to always speak in light and love. Yet I feel right now, our ability and what I feel the collective is calling us upon is us to stand in our leadership in the love and light of our hearts, to expose the reality of what is. And then, as you said just a couple seconds ago, to bring forth the forgiveness and the compassion to help dissolve it, because at some point we do have to go through it, because it is all part of the divine plan.
And Adrian, every Tuesday night we have last night was the 17th week. We have a collective silent meditation for the highest visions of light for Gaia and humanity. So we come with the purity of our heart, we show up, and we allow whatever takes place. This is what's interesting. The individuals who have taken the actions of crimes against humanity, in these meditations, they're not being punished. It's none of that, because the higher conscious will bring them into a place where they're given the opportunity to rise from this deep shadow. So it's a very interesting thing that is taking place. If we know where we're positioned, we're not going to be able to hold ourselves back. And I feel any of us, when we're conscious enough and we're awakening enough, and we have seen, if it's the fear of conspiracy that is stopping you from speaking, that means you're giving your power to the idea of conspiracy. But if you're speaking your divine truth, because that is your truth, there's no convincing or anything. And to me, there's not even a teaching. You're just pretty much standing up, being vocal. When you voice this, you're standing behind what that deep truth is right here. And you're communicating to the universe, I will not stand by this and support this vibration, because it has to be brought up from the shadow to the light, so I can use this transmuting light of my sacred flame and allow it to transmute to light, so nobody else gets hurt anymore. And there's some of these children that have signed this agreement so that we can become aware and we can take part. And I feel if you're not aware, no problem. But when you're aware and you shut it, I don't know. There's no judgment. But for me, I know where I'm positioned. I'm not going to shy away from. To me, the vaccines are that they're tied to that. That's why I'm vocal about it, because I've said from 20 years and in research, not because somebody said, deep, intense research, what I discovered and what I had to change within my own life to bring light to it. So thank you for opening this conversation, because this is also, it's not all light. No, Earth is a dense planet and we got work to do here. That's where we incarnated.
Yeah, I feel that's a very good point you both bring up there about it's not about ostracizing or even if it's just like an internal inner understanding, but like instead helping bring it into the light and really, I mean, fundamentally doing that with ourselves first and foremost. So like those dark aspects of ourselves. I mean, I feel like that's the true warrior's journey. Is it's not about like those dark aspects of ourselves that might be, we may try to push away and, I don't want to be that person anymore, but accept it, and instead accepting it, showing it love, bringing it in. But then also on that fractal element of that, like using that to the other aspects of the world around us, but it first means bringing awareness to it and bringing some light to it. And the more people do that, the more seamless that transition can be or will be. But it's still, and you both spoke about it as well, especially in these spiritual / esoteric circles. A lot of people don't want to think about it. They don't want to talk about it. And if you do talk about more of the negative aspects of the world, you're seen as perhaps being a pessimist and all that. But it's not necessarily the case, I don't feel. It's perhaps instead just shining light on these different things that a lot of us don't want to face.
And isn't it interesting, Adrian, that now in what's happening in the world is it's everyone's individual opportunity to face that. Like, we don't have a choice anymore. And I think that's the beautiful thing about 2020 when you really look at the relationship of 2020. It's the universal mirror of yourself. And we can no longer hide from the mirror of what has been suppressed. We actually have to look what's there. Yeah. It's not ours. It's been programmed. It's been conditioned. We came into it to transform it. So once we depersonalize it and stop defending it and just allow through the compassion and forgiveness of what has been here for thousands of years and then really see that this isolation, this time for us to really go within and look at the shadow, look at the darkness, and really see what I feel has been the biggest, that fear of what death is, because that's what's out in the world right now, and that for so many that are not conscious run away from. And now that we have it in our papers, in our stories, in our media, then we really get to have a close relationship with that and so many other densities that have been just pushed below. And now as they all come up, we have to deal with it first, and then find that light, and then share that from the truth of our hearts. The key is to use discernment of where we bring that in, because as you know, in social media and so much, and Honi and I had a great conversation this morning of just really feeling it where your heart resonates versus the mind of what theory, what history, what story, what being, but really just to feel in the broadcast of your fine vibration that your love of your heart expresses, to live from that truth and be that truth in the highest expression of light. And that's why I love with Honi and I, we have these discussions.
We get so deep
because there's so many truths, and we know that, everything has some truth, but your own truth is within yourself. And when you follow that, then that helps dissolve the fears that so many people put out because they just haven't maybe pulled that corner out, or they maybe haven't looked at this perspective because they're so charged or so angry or so stressed or so triggered.
Attached.
Or attached. That's it.
And what is, I feel really important, Adrian, is that each of us choose to come in this incarnation with a whole lot that we signed up for, and we are positioned exactly where we are. Many are not positioned where I am, and I'm not positioned where others are. That's not it. You need to know where you're positioned. So what is called to you to truly serve that. And this artificial matrix that is dismantling. And the way it's dismantling is by our own power of choosing to face the deepest and the darkest part of ourselves, because it's tied into the artificial matrix, that's tied into everything that ties into the economic system, because we, through the purchasing power, we have given our dollars or whatever into allowing it to keep going. So once we become aware, the light goes on, then we have to dismantle this. That means we no longer can support, and we can no longer go against our heart just to please whatever else. And that shadow, that dark, is very, very important, not for us to stay in it, because it is the higher light of the I am that comes from it. Because especially, like, let's say for an example, I'm going to take somebody who's been sexually abused. They feel so shitty about themselves for most of their life. They want to disconnect from the body that they're in because there's so much shaming. Nobody needs to body shame them. They are the ultimate experience in walking of that disgust, right? So from there, when they get to face that. Then they get to see how that this was part of their own divine plan that they agreed to bring the light to it, to then go through its transmutation, then go through the forgiveness, then go the resurrection, then bring love into it. Are you kidding me? That's divine brought forth into dismantling this. You see, then you stand up for it. You become a voice of that, of just that truth, of that presence, because you walked it. It's not you read it, you watched the freaking video. You walked a resurrection light. And now you're here to just shine that so others will find that power to go through. Because from there, you see it in such perfection that it was part of your divine plan. You're not a victim. You're not a survivor. It's none of that. You are a triumph, victorious presence, because you signed up to exactly do this so that the collective become conscious. You see what
I do know what you mean.
There's
And
perfection and imperfection. It's incredible.
Yeah, exactly. I guess like in the last sort of decade, I feel like the environment for people to be able to do that has improved a lot. I mean, what you speak to there, Honi, about taking that responsibility on within and accepting it, moving forward with it, transitioning through it, bringing the light to it, it can be very hard to do if you're in amongst a dysfunctional family. If your friends are all, sort of alcoholics or drug users and drug abusers, it's very hard to get out of that. But I feel like now there's a lot more opportunity for people to find their tribe, I guess is a good way to describe, and sort of and help move through those different aspects. And I only hope that moving forward into the future, there's going to be more support for people to do that. However, I must say that I have grown a little bit pessimistic over the last couple of years. I'd say even probably perhaps since Layla was born as well, because I was talking to a friend of mine, I was Aisha the other day about this, about how since the birth of my daughter, I've become much more aware of love and an aspect of love, but I've also become much more aware of evil and understanding that that's there as well. And just some of the things and some of the ways I see the world moving in what we would call the old structures, I guess, or that part of the matrix that this is dismantling, like you said before. It's like it's sort of like it's not going down without a fight in a lot of ways.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why I think it's important for those of us who have been putting that work in to really stand up, represent, share our experiences, and to do that, to show that there is another, it doesn't have to be this way. Like there is another way to live. There is another way to habitate together and to be in our nature on this earth that goes against what we get told in what I now term the legacy media, the old school media, where you don't hear stories like Jeffrey Epstein, like the fact that the mainstream media, the dude mysteriously dies in jail, wrapped up in amongst the most powerful people in the world, and then the story just gets dropped 2 days later. I mean, that's not working for civilization. That's not helping in the betterment. Yeah.
See right through it.
Yeah. But that's the thing. You and I and Michael, we can see right through it, but a lot of people still can't. Like if I was to speak to my parents, for example, they just wouldn't have a clue about it. It wouldn't be a thing for them. But there is this undercurrent that is developing. I just hope that it's only my own personal experience that some of this darkness that I'm also being able to understand, I take that as a blessing, because I feel it's important to be aware of, is still there, and it is sort of getting as strong as the light as well. But perhaps that's also the separation that's occurring as well at this time that also a lot of people talk about.
You know what's interesting, Adrian? I'm glad you spoke of that, because when you say that, I imagine the yin yang, the Tao, and you know how like within light there's that small level of darkness. And it's in that light, and so it's such a beauty when we first learn about that in Eastern medicine, because we really see how one needs the other, one reacts the other, even though it's a polarity and we're moving beyond a polarity. What I've really experienced is as much darkness is out there, and as much evil is out there, it can only move to a certain frequency. And with light, because light has such a higher frequency, we can manifest in a whole different vibration. We can attract so much faster within that light that only that darkness that darkness has a limitation.
Yeah.
And that limitation cannot even move to the level of light. And what's interesting, when light is so strong, that darkness is pulled to the light because
it too wants to transcend.
It too wants to transform, because behind all darkness there is love. There is all light. And some people, we label it, we judge it of how bad darkness is. And yes, darkness doesn't feel good. Yet darkness does have a divine role to be brought in, because once that darkness is brought to the attention and it's actually recognized, it's no longer hidden and suppressed. It's like, when we put that figurative like vampire into light, it turns back into light because that darkness has been revealed. And I find right now, when more of that darkness can be brought forth in just the level of acceptance into our presence, and really just bringing that awareness to it, it doesn't have that power over us anymore. And I keep looking back, that light is growing within the darkness, and the light, because it has such a powerful frequency, that darkness will never be able to put out that light, because light is far more greater in every level of dimension that can dissolve it. And that's what I find is the gift in what our roles are, because in some ways what Honi and I feel like, this lonely journey, this feeling of being the minority, so many people out there just not being awoke, but yet we're growing in numbers. We're becoming more awoke. We just have to maintain our patience.
I feel
the patience is the thing, isn't it, Michael?
Yeah. It's the patience.
But see, you can't be focused on that. I feel like one of the things that we share, Adrian, what's important is we being indigo crystal beings that came in to stand up and to really stand up. And this standing up is very important part of it, because when you're not standing up to the dark outside, you're standing up to the dark in you, and you're saying no more. So that only contributes to the collective. That's all it is. The work is right here. So when you can go fool everybody else, but when you cannot fool yourself, you're going to attempt to, but there is the presence that is the witness. And when you are able to use that power and stand up to the ultimate dark in you, you will no longer be manipulated, controlled, dogmated, none of that. And you're able to stand. And that is the biggest contribution in standing behind the voice, because it's only in reverence of that dark that allows you to be where you are. You see, it's that perfect. You will never separate that out of you, because it's been the most important part of you. You see what I mean? That's this yin and yang. Light is here, dark is here.
So
this
within.
thing, right? But it's the whole. That's where finally standing up.
Right.
You're gonna take everything that happened in your life as the divine perfect plan shaped you exactly so you can serve your calling, and there's nothing backing that, and it becomes the voice of your authentic truth that is called now to stand in it. That's all it is. And I feel I really feel this, any of us that are more concerned what and how others are going to perceive me, you're being a disservice to your true essence in this now. That's why. And this is the time. If there was any time, this is the time not to be angry.
And that program, Adrian, I feel that program that Honi just said is that in a very young age, and I even go back to like when I first read Miguel Ruiz, is our program is we've always seeked attention. And if we don't get attention, somewhere we don't feel worthy. And so that old program is we have to accept ourselves in the eyes of others. We have to seek authority and approval. Is that old programming literally of making sure that we fit in with what other people say on the exterior. It's like one of the oldest programs in the world. So many people are worrying about what others look at them because we're still somewhere have an old program that says, oh, do we feel accepted? Do we feel honored? Do we feel loved? Yet it's our own work within to accept ourselves just the way that we are, the dark, the light, the love. It's been many years for me. I mean, the blessing that Honi has given to me. You know, when I look at all my beautiful homosexual friends and I say, wow, now I know what it's like to step out of the closet because Honi has given me the permission to watch what she has done, to step out of the spiritual closet and to express what it is. In the beginning, it took me a while because half my friends on Facebook were not so much conscious. So I'm like, can I say this? Are they going to laugh at me? Are they going to, oh, you hippy dippy, you wackadoodle, spiritual smoke another one? Like, it was like this level of like, man, I'm really going to be ridiculed. But the more that I could see that power of standing up and letting go of what other people thought of me, and that would give that fullness of not worrying about what I feel a lot of programs are out there is dismantling that feeling that we need that approval from the outside when we just need to approve of ourselves within because we are already fine, right?
Yeah, and sort of understanding that. I mean, you would have had people come that have been in your past, Michael, that were doing that you were then able to help in, you know, and then with Honi as being part of it as well. But you think about also yourself, Honi, the amount of people that I mean, we're standing on the shoulders of giants. That's a good way to describe it, where there's these people that have done enough to get themselves out of the way, to speak their truth, that helps uplift us, that it's sort of our happy responsibility, I like to say, to then pay that forward, to get ourselves out of the way, to like share our experiences and bring that light forward, to be susceptible to ridicule, and then enable other people to be able to sort of rise up as well. I feel like sometimes myself, when I get too much into myself, then I stop doing that. Then I'm not really being of service to humanity. And I know it's a constant awareness. I need to constantly be checking in on myself about that. But you're right. Just quickly, Michael, just to backnote the Miguel Ruiz. Is it Miguel Ruiz? Is that Four Agreements?
Four Agreements, yeah. It was. I loved what he spoke about because he really spoke about in our first years of life there is this level of domestication. Yeah. And that domestication was like sometimes we're rewarded for being good, sometimes we're rewarded for being bad, sometimes we're being punished for being good. And what I really appreciate and which reminded all of us, because you know these masters, it just spoke about our level of attention, because when we look at what attention is, it really is acceptance. And I find one of the biggest gifts within us is, can we accept ourselves for the imperfection and perfection of us? And many times, because there has been those old programs of what we see in sports and universities and institutions, this constant competition, this constant level of I have to be better, I have to be good. Yet when we go all the way back to the basics of who we are and accept everything, light, dark, good, bad, right, wrong, which is all just a label, a word, then we can get to the core of it and help dissolve that. Because I literally feel the journey now for all of us is to look at these limited beliefs that we have. Every belief we have, every word, because we even know our words are still holding just a small level of what's beyond the words in the spiritual realms. We have to let go of our differences of our cultures and patriotism and religion and ethnicity and all the areas, and let all that go, because these beliefs are being dismantled so that we can bring our divine love to see the oneness of who we are. And I loved how Miguel Ruiz really spoke about the domestication process that all of us done. Because if you think about it, weren't we all born in a story that was already happening? We didn't choose it. We were given this story. Yeah. And we were programmed automatically by our family. And guess what we get to do now? We get to stand in front of our family and we get to transfer their stuff that they haven't done. And we have to laugh at it and smile at it, because our families are the ones that get the most of us, because we're like, oh my gosh, they gave this to me. I don't appreciate myself. I don't appreciate them. And now I got to love it with myself and love it within them to finally dissolve it.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, Terence McKenna, who I really enjoy listening to, he talked about once how it's like, you know, we talk about it as being a social contract. We're born into a social contract. And he's like, what kind of ridiculous contract is that? Like, you know, it's not something I ever signed up to. I mean, it's this sort of moral obligation that we have, that we do need to be, accept that we're in this domesticated society, this domesticated sort of civilization. But yeah, I mean, just the first thing is just to question it. why is this? Why do I need to be in it? What am I in exactly? And what do I represent truly?
Exactly. It's like taking down the patriarch. You know, we're dissolving the whole level of what has been brought before us, and now allowing us to thrive to levels that we never knew of, our multidimensional self. And that's the exciting part now. That the ability to receive all the gifts and all the powers that were now being brought forward. Now that the veil is becoming clearer and clearer, so we can feel the fullness of ourselves and express that and be that. And most important is what I love what Honi does is stand up in it in its full virtue.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's one of the beautiful things about the sacred union, especially, isn't it? And it's certainly something that I identify with Leah as well, is just that breadth of understanding of that, and to be able to understand having those divine energies come together is really a brilliant thing. And I mean, there's certainly a lot of work that you can do on your own as a single person, even within a relationship or in a union as well. But certainly when working together, it can really be a real power. You know, it's really something that I identify as being such a strength in our world.
Yeah, I look at it as awareness and heart standing, not understanding, because there is no understanding will never even be able to capture it. It doesn't have the capacity. But when you bring that to heart standing and awareness, that's when it's the massive expansion of it that is able to recognize. It's a whole different consciousness. So, and it is within divine unions, there is a great responsibility because there is a great power in it. And if it is anchored properly, it is only utilized for the highest good completely. And that if it's that union that comes, if it's misaligned, it will do a lot of harm to both individuals and all people around it. So it is, again, it's very interesting, but it is part of right now it's of specific purpose for specific frequency for specific delivery of what we recognize as the golden age. It is through this golden crystalline light that is very clear. That means there is no room for deception. There is no room for manipulation. There is no room for dogmatic or control, because it's Christed clear. It's been blinded by that much light that has transmuted it, so it's very clear, and we stand up to that, so that, like last night, I'll send you the link of the meditation and what was experienced. It was, I mean, just wept from the beauty of New Earth, of how clear and clean it is, and it's everything we all desire, but we're literally birthing this consciousness, and it's only for these sacred children, because we recognize they're to be completely in this purity flame, nothing less than it, because that's where they come from. And we have the desire to do everything in our living power to protect these children. And I feel this is why this whole pedophilia has come in, because it finally has to come in to recognize the role of these sacred children. These other children sign agreement on a soul agreement to come and to play the role, so that we can kick it into gear. Because sometimes for our own selves, we won't do it. But when there's something that hits us into a core, like a child that you'll be able to kick it into the gear out of the love and passion for that. And it's just perfect. I see the divine perfection in it, and it's exciting to be a part of it. It's exciting part in standing up for it. It's exciting to fully recognize why you chose this incarnation.
Yeah.
What divine purpose. And it is a celebration, truly.
Yeah, it is a celebration. Yeah, definitely. Well, on that note, Honi and Michael, I think it's a really good way to sum up and have sum up the conversation. I think.
It's about 11 o'clock your time now.
Is it? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Nice.
Time to spot having fun, right?
Sorry, Michael. Sorry.
I said time goes by when you're having fun.
Oh, no, right.
Really
Exactly.
moments and really just connect heart to heart. It's such a gift of appreciation, Adrian, that you can invite us on and really just allow our hearts to speak, allow our love to be expressed, and just to be raw and real. That brings forth this to each and every one that can hear it, and just to become more aware of what's happening, and then allow that to bring forth in their own journey. So we cannot be more thankful and grateful for you and your patience. Last week, the energies, as you know, in DC tend to be pushing. Even this morning, I woke up with one eye and one eye, and she's like, "We got this," like her bunny rabbit. So it's uplifting to have this and to feel this within our connection, and we could not be more grateful.
Yeah, thank you, Michael, and I totally agree and concur. It's a very important aspect of our humanness that we can share and have these conversations, and it means a lot, and not just for the people having them, but that's I guess one of the joys about modern technology now is that other people get to be brought into this in time moving forward as well. So yeah, it's a fantastic thing. How can people find out about you guys and connect with you guys through whatever channels you may have?
So best way is we have our own Facebook page called Ascension Alchemists. And that was the name that was given to us. We are serving the ascension. We're alchemizing this frequency, literally. So we stand behind that. Ascension Alchemists is our page. YouTube, also Ascension Alchemists, which is the big one, because we do a lot of free things, a lot of it, because it's just predominantly serving the community of light to help them with their personal and planetary ascension. I am currently focused on just the transmission of the crystalline diamond light code activations of the light body. And if individuals want to learn more about that, the information is on YouTube, and they can email me honeybee1111@gmail.com. Michael is...
and then I'm focusing on a lot of the earthly realms. I'm connecting with bringing these frequencies in person through the Archangel Michael transformational healing, but now really helping many in the sacred divine masculinity of bringing forth that space that I could hold for others in sacred divine heart listening, where individuals can have that space presented through them virtually throughout the world, as well as beautiful shamanic journeys that I bring a space to them for them to be brought into a deep realm to explore their own personal powers. And so as that guidance, I am very open to have those online sessions virtually through Zoom, through Skype, and they can contact me at abramson7@gmail.com to offer that within our virtual world as well as in our communities around here in person.
Yeah, brilliant, guys. Yeah, I really love the work you guys do and the work you're putting out there. It's fantastic, and it really feels true.
Yeah.
Well, we won't do anything less than that, Adrian. It just won't let us. And
well, that's what I love about you.
We really ask people. There are people in Australia that connected with us last night, being on our this particular Tuesday night meditation that's in DC every Tuesday night, 7:45. It's 30 minutes, but we really bring in this light inside, and then we are of highest service. It's very powerful. Really invite everybody to take part, experience it. I will send you a video at some point if you want, you experience it yourself. And every other Friday, we have our Friday tea time. That's a really good one. That's on our YouTube channel. Michael and I grab our tea. We just talk about what's been happening with the frequencies, what's happening individually, together, and with others. So we have a place where people can just share. It's very relaxed. And that's also really, really wonderful one for people to connect to. So they feel that support from this lens that we are dedicated to, if only if it costs to them. Otherwise, we totally honor and respect individuals wherever they are.
And one thing, just finally, Adrian, I know we're heading out soon, is the biggest blessing that Honi has really provided in the Sacred Union is everything that we do in our healings that we offer, because we know the most powerful source is love. We receive our offerings, our exchanges for the healings and the private one-on-one sessions through love gift offering.
There's no price.
There's no price. It's for the individual to go within their heart, to feel within their heart, because we know it's not just for us. They're actually giving that back to them and feeling
And
that
to the universe.
and to the universe in the abundance and prosperity that they are. So we're blessed because we know that not only is this for their personal and planetary ascension, but this is also giving the trust that whatever your heart communicates to yourself without us telling you what that amount is the most
That's the
perfect
right
amount,
vibration.
because we actually live
great
that
guys.
Could you imagine we live off of that 4 years, travel, everything based on the love gift offering.
And
No
however
price.
they choose to share that through simple PayPal or whatever means that we are blessed by that, because
But
that is
that's the one that's a private session. The rest is free.
Yeah.
Everything is free
but
unless
that's-
it's a private session.
and that's what that's why I really feel blessed, because that is I feel the world's way, not new, it's always been there, but to show that one day it's going to be all love. There's not going to be any currency.
No price.
We're going to be love anyway, so might as well start tapping into the heart and listening to the heart, because the love that you're expressing outward is the love that you're expressing inward. And that is what we are given this opportunity to trust what the divine is coming through us by what people share in us in our offerings that we're so grateful in those sessions. The rest are usually free, all free.
Nice, guys. That is brilliant. Yeah, I certainly feel like, that this new, again, you're right, Michael, it's not new, it's been around, but this new economy that, we're hoping to bring in and to facilitate, it's an important part of our next steps in our civilization. So it's brilliant what you're doing, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. I'm on about 2% on my computer here now, so
you gotta go to sleep.
90 minutes.
Adrian,
hit it.
So
we did well.
Yeah.
It was wonderful to see you.
Thank you, brother.
You too.
Big gift. So much.
Thank you, guys, both of you.
Before my birthday, you are here again. Just big gift. Big gift from my heart. Thank you.
Much love. Many blessings, brother.
Many blessings to you too, both. Enjoy your day today, and we'll speak again soon.
Okay, love you so much.
Thank you.
Love you too.
Bye.
Love you.
Bye.
See you guys.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.